reminder, if you have 221 happen, then you'll hear the system that says music code ended, and then once you hear that, you're ready to go.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, we're going live in 3, 2, 1. Music hold ended.
Good evening from AARP Arkansas. I am Maria Hoskins, the Associate State Director for Advocacy and Outreach, coming to you live from our state office in Little Rock. We want to welcome you to our Spring 2023 Fraud Awareness Tele-Town Hall, where we have several special guests in attendance. But before we go too far into the weeds, we just want to remind you that this call is optional. If you're not interested in learning about the ways to protect yourself from fraud, feel free to hang up now. But we really hope that you will stay with us because we have a lot of good information to share. And if you have questions, press *3, *3, and an operator will be happy to assist. Calls are taken in the order they are received, so if you know you have a fraud question, go ahead and dial in. Now, before we get to our special guest, I want to ask this simple poll question. Have you been a victim of a scam? Tonight, we'll talk about identity theft, romance scams, Social Security fraud, and much more. If you've been a victim of a scam, press 1 now. If you have not, press 2. We'll have the results in about 5 minutes, and it's always interesting to hear what you have to say. And now I want to introduce to you Assistant Attorney General Rachel Klender from Attorney General Tim Griffin's office, from AARP's Fraud Prevention Program, Seth Bofelli, and our AARP Arkansas State Director, Ashley McBride. And most importantly, a special welcome to all of you who have joined us. If you would like to watch the Tele-Town Hall while you listen, you can tune in to AARP Arkansas Facebook page, and we will also archive this program on our YouTube channel so you can share it and refer to great resources our team of experts are providing today. Just a reminder that by calling in, you agree for your name and voice to be used. To ask a question, press *3. And now, I'm going to turn over tonight's program over to our moderator, Ashley McBride. Ashley?
Good evening, and thank you, Maria. It is my honor to serve the AARP community as your state director, and I hope tonight's program sheds light on the significant issue of fraud and how you can protect yourself. At AARP Arkansas, we aim to be the innovative champion for the 50-plus community through impactful advocacy, community engagement, and education that empowers people to choose how they live as they age. Part of that is bringing you educational programs that empower you to act and make informed decisions. If you have a question or comment about fraud, please press *3 and we'll bring you on the line or ask our panel your question for you. Speaking of, let's meet our panel. Rachel Klender is an Assistant Attorney General for the state of Arkansas. Rachel, tell us a little about yourself and the role the AG's office plays in fraud prevention.
I've been with the Attorney General's office for a little over a year in the Public Protection Department, which includes the Consumer Protection Division, which is where I work. And an enormous amount of our work is focused on fraud, scams, helping prevent them, and helping mediate them when they do occur. We also enforce several laws, primarily the Arkansas Deceptive Trade Practices Act, which has the special feature of an additional $10,000 fine for any violation of that act if it's committed against a person who is over 60 or who is disabled in some way. So that's just one way that the state of Arkansas is looking out for you, and the Attorney General's office is empowered to do everything we can for seniors.
Rachel, it's great to know that the Attorney General's office takes fraud so seriously. AARP is also focused on preventing fraud primarily in the 50-plus population, and that's why we are excited to have Seth Buffelli, Senior Advisor, AARP Fraud Prevention Program, joining us from AARP headquarters in Washington, D.C. Seth, we know it's after hours there, so we thank you for joining us. Tell us a little about AARP's Fraud Watch Program.
Yeah, thanks. I'm with the national office, but I'm actually coming to you tonight from Minnesota, the river from you guys. Let me just say at the front, I am very, very sorry for all of the water that's coming. It was in my yard 2 weeks ago, and so stay safe because there's a lot coming your way. But I'm so glad to be with you tonight. AARP is really committed to providing not just education, but outreach and advocacy support for people who are dealing with fraud and scams. This is a universal problem. It affects people of all backgrounds, all ages, all political parties, and we all play a role in keeping each other safe. And calls like these are really invaluable because we can spread a lot of education, but also put it in the hands of people who can share it with their friends and neighbors. And that's how we really keep the stuff ahead of these criminals.
Thank you, Seth. I'm getting the signal that we have our first caller. If you have a question, comment about fraud, just dial *3. And now we'll take a question from Peggy Walker from Arkadelphia. How do I find out who has answers to get my mom in a nursing home? She has many issues and doesn't qualify because she has a home in Missouri. She doesn't qualify for Medicare either.
Yeah, that's a tough one, and it kind of varies by state. One of the great resources actually is each state has a Medicare, a senior Medicare patrol that usually runs out of the Department of Aging, and that might be a good place to start out.
Thank you, Seth. As I've traveled the state, several people have shared about online scams, from romance scams to buyer beware type fraud. All of these have a common goal of trying to extort money from the victim. Seth, break down for us the most common frauds and what are you watching at AARP?
Yeah, it changes sort of every year. Where I sit, I have the unenviable task of sort of watching scams all across the country. And there are certain ones that are more prevalent in other areas. What we really see looking at data from last year is a particular concentration of identity theft in the South. Arkansas is actually okay when you look at the number of complaints for identity theft by state. Arkansas is about 30th, so it's not a bad problem. But if you look just to the south, all of the Gulf Coast states, Georgia and Texas, so your neighbors to the south are all in the top 10 for identity theft. So that's something probably to be on the lookout for. Actually, we do so much to try to keep our information safe. Our passwords and our social security number and our birthdays out. The sad reality is a lot of that stuff is just kind of already out there in data breaches that have nothing to do with us. And so understanding how to do things like set up credit monitoring so you know someone trying to take out a credit card in your name, or even putting on a credit freeze are important tools to protect yourself from the scam before it happens.
That's great information, Sid. So, Rachel, here in Arkansas, you all have heard of many of these stories, some very similar to the question that Seth just answered. So if someone is a victim, what recourse do they have?
The first thing, the absolute first thing to do is to let your bank know, let all of your credit cards know, let your driver's license bureau know, which in Arkansas is is with the Department of Finance and Administration, the DMV. They can make sure that no one else tries to create a new driver's license or get a new driver's license using your driver's license number. And by alerting the banks, they will be able to either freeze your accounts if that's necessary, if you're sure that information has been stolen and you have another way to access your funds, or they can put alerts on your accounts so that to help them flag suspicious use. And then finally, immediately after doing that, report it to the Attorney General, because we have ways of working with our partners to try to reverse charges if possible, to try to recover funds that have been lost. If unfortunately nowadays they tend to be wired offshore pretty quickly, a lot of times through Bitcoin or similar accounts. So we're less able to recover funds now than we were previously, but quick action can still help stop the loss of other people's money or other people's data that was lost in the same breach or the same violation if the predators are still going after it. So number one, hit your banks. Number two, secure your driver's license number. Number three, call the Attorney General.
Wow, that's such great information, Rachel. And I have another question for you that's very similar to the one about fraud. So this question is from Virginia in Arkansas, and she asked, a year ago, she was robbed at the grocery store. She's 88 years old. She reported to the police that the robbery occurred. She asked if cameras could be released and never heard from either the police or the store again. What recourse does she have since this happened to other people?
That's a tough one. That is a tough one, and I should have added report the theft to local law enforcement immediately as well. I apologize for leaving that out. Not hearing back from police, not hearing back from other agencies, not hearing back from basically any overworked institution is not uncommon. We all know that. And so, unfortunately, fraud and scams are one of those things where once you've been a victim, you have to become an advocate for yourself. And that means calling them repeatedly, and it means also reaching out to people who can reach out to them. And again, this is something where if you were to approach the Attorney General with a report like this, we could reach out to the police department and say, hey, we need a copy of this police report. We need to find out what's going on. Whether or not the tape is available is questionable, but we could at least track down whether or not anything ever happened, whether or not anyone was seen, and try to help that person find the resources to determine whether or not any of their information was compromised.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for that valuable information. So if you have a question or a comment about fraud, just dial *3. There have been so many great questions, and I know there are more to come. But just to recap, I am Ashley McBride, State Director of AARP Arkansas. Joined today by Rachel Klender, Assistant Attorney General, State of Arkansas, and Seth Buffelli, Senior Advisor, AARP Fraud Prevention Program. Today's program is all about fraud, and to answer your questions or concerns about fraud. A little earlier, Associate State Director for Advocacy and Outreach, Maria Hoskins, asked a poll question. How many of you have been victims of scams? Maria, what were the results?
Okay, Ashley, let's see what the results were. Wow, can you believe we had 67% of our respondents said they have been a victim of a scam, We really hope the information we are sharing today helps us to prevent fraud and from happening to anyone else. After everyone, we're listening to share the resources available through the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Ashley?
Well, that's right. No one and no way can prevent criminals specifically, but we will try very hard at AARP Arkansas to ensure we give you the valuable information to make sure that you are not a victim of fraud, or you know what to do if you have been a victim of fraud. So, there is one way to prevent criminals from acquiring your confidential records, and that's to shred files that you no longer need, such as medical records or credit card offers. AARP will be hosting our first Shred Fest of the year in Little Rock on May 6th from 8 a.m. to noon, and the second in Springdale on May 20th from 8 a.m. to noon as well. We encourage you to come out and destroy documents to help prevent confidential information from getting in the wrong hands. We have more information and ways to register for the Shred Fest at states.aarp.org/Arkansas. Again, states.aarp.org/Arkansas. So let's pause for a moment and take a quick poll. Maria?
Thanks, Ashley. Again, I am Maria Hoskins, the Associate State Director for Advocacy and Outreach, and I'm excited about this next question because it ties into the work that I do here at AARP Arkansas. You can use your keypad on your phone to answer this question. We want to know, would you like to see stiffer penalties for elder-related fraud? Press 1 for yes and 2 for no on your keypad. Oh, wow. This is fantastic. The responses are coming in, and we will share those results with you in just a few minutes. And while you are typing, I'm going to turn this back over to Ashley for another round of questions. If you have a question or comment, remember, just dial *3.
And our phone lines have been lighting up. Thank you all so much for participating in this informative Tele-Town Hall on fraud prevention. Let's see who wants to ask a new question. So, we have a question from Susan in Arkansas. There are a ton of commercials for title lock, but if a fraudster gets a mortgage on the home, is the homeowner liable in any way? Rachel, do you want to take that?
If a fraudster gets a mortgage on your home, if it is a fraudulent transaction, then no, you are not liable. But you have to take the steps necessary to establish with your bank, the one that holds the legitimate mortgage, and with the other lender who has the fraudulent mortgage, to establish that you are the rightful owner, that you have the title to the house, and that someone else taking fraudulent steps in trying to acquire some of your property is doing so fraudulently. So once again, the burden is unfortunately on the shoulders of the consumer rather than the fraudster. But if you look at it as an opportunity to protect your assets, each time you do this, each time you report a fraud, report theft, report a possible scam, change your passwords, change your login credentials, change the PIN on your debit card, every step you take like that is something that you are doing positively to protect your assets and the assets that will go to your heirs eventually, or to anyone you want to give them to, your church, community organizations. You are doing what you can to protect what's yours and what you want to give to other people.
Thank you, Rachel. So said, AARP hosts Shred events all over the country, and Arkansas has certainly embraced this program to help prevent fraud. Can you tell us how people can take action on a daily basis to protect themselves?
Yeah, actually, I want to follow up a little bit on the title lock, just for Susan and other people who might see these things. This is one of these things that sort of makes for good TV, but really isn't prevalent. I think that's one thing to be aware of is that people are out there trying to sell a product, and sometimes they'll play into your fears to try to do it. We just don't see that many examples of title fraud. In the cases where you have a mortgage with a bank, it's really difficult to do because the bank essentially owns your house. It might be a little bit more of a concern if you own your own home free and clear. But again, research it carefully before you buy a product like this. Make sure there's just not another way to protect yourself without having to pay for it. In terms of the shredding, it's a great service that you guys offer. We can never be too safe with our personal information, especially our bank account, social security number, all that sort of stuff. A lot of that, people have built up over the pandemic, and so the service you provide to get rid of it is really, really helpful. AARP is hosting literally dozens and dozens of these scams, these shredding events from coast to coast this spring, and so it's just a great opportunity to protect yourself and get a little bit of clutter out of the house.
Thank you, Sid. So we're going to take another question from a caller. This is from Judith in Mena, Arkansas. Judith has been involved in scams from many companies charging her account, and she wants to know one specifically from Amazon. Should she report this to the Attorney General if she can get their phone number, or what can she do to receive some assistance with it?
So the first thing to do is, yes, absolutely, report it to the Attorney General. If you go to our website, it's arkansasag.gov, and at the bottom of the home page is a bright red banner, and second tab over from the left says File a Consumer Complaint, and it brings up an interactive page where you can just type in all of the details of the incident, or you can download a PDF of that page and mail it in separately if you'd like to do so. It'll let you attach up to 3 documents, and so those can be copies of the credit card bill showing the fraudulent transaction, or the receipt that you got on your bank statement, whatever it is that you would be able to share. The other thing to do is to contact Amazon and let them know that it happened, because the amount of fraud that has occurred through that marketplace has increased since they opened it up to third-party sellers. And so they monitor those sales in addition to the ones that are actually native Amazon sales.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for that information. So we have 2 callers that have similar issues, and this surrounds Summit Utilities. And so they want to know that what should they do if they're receiving a call from Summit Utilities saying that they're being overcharged and they would get a $50 check, and when they inquired, they were hung up on. What should they do about this call that they're continuing to receive? Should they call the Attorney General's office, or how should they report those calls?
If you're being hung up on, first of all, Summit isn't contacting people this way and offering free money. But secondly, if you're receiving calls of this nature where you're being hung up on, if it's a robocall, we have a very active anti-robocall division, and so absolutely report those. I can't tell you right offhand where the link is on our site to report robocalls, but I'll make sure you get that information. It'll allow you to enter, if you know it, the number that was called from, the way the person identified themselves, whatever script they gave you, and then what happened after that. Was there interaction? Did they hang up on you? That kind of thing. But today, Summit is carrying out its communications with its customers in the same way that it was already carrying them out, which is to say, if you were entirely online, your communications are going to be online. If you were still receiving paper documents, you'll receive paper documents from them. And so just beware of anyone who is taking advantage of the Summit situation. And similarly with post-tornado here in central Arkansas, if there is a big story in the news, if there is a disaster, fraudsters, scammers will hop right on it and find a way to try to get money out of somebody's pocket, even if it's $50, if it's $1,000, anything they can get is, to them, it's worth the attempt.
Thank you, Rachel. The Fraud Watch Network is designed to give Arkansas residents access to proven tools and resources to help protect them, their families, and their friends from identity theft and fraud. It's free and open to everyone of any age, AARP members and non-members alike. To sign up, you can call 877-908-3360 or by visiting our website at aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. That's aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. On the website, you'll find information on the latest scams and have a chance to share your stories on our scam tracking map. And now, we'll go to another caller. This question is from Daniel in Arkansas. Why can't they do something about fraud on computers and on phones? It's obvious that it's a fraud. What can they do to take them down? Seth, do you want to tackle that question?
Yeah, this is a great way where reporting really matters, Ashley. If it's Google or Amazon, it's important to report that so that gets back to the company. They ultimately are responsible for what happens on their platforms, and if they do or do not, if they are or aren't responsive, that's something that people need to know. And this is some place where we work really hard on dating apps, and not even on dating apps, on Facebook. A lot of romance scams start on Facebook with someone who gets a friend request, somebody who looks like they're in the military, they're overseas on a long deployment, and I really love them, and they saw your picture on Facebook, and you just look like a fun person with a great spirit. And, could we get, could we connect on WhatsApp or some other platform, because we really like to get to know you better. And what you find out is that these are all fake accounts. They use the same pictures over and over and over. And with all of the things that AI can do these days that really scare the daylights out of us, why not use it to sift through these and find these, the technology exists to find these criminals, to find these fake sites, and take them down. I think that what we need to do is just continue to keep the heat to the feet of the technology companies. And the only way that really happens is by reporting. That's why, I know a lot of people think, well, it doesn't go anywhere. I didn't actually lose money, so why would I report this? And that's why reporting really helps.
Thank you so much, Sid. And I have another question from Peggy Walker in Arkadelphia. Peggy received a scam call requesting money from someone pretending to be her grandson, and they requested $95,000. What can she do when she cannot receive help after calling the FBI about the scam call? Rachel or Seth wants to take that one.
This is a really common one, either by phone call or very frequently by email. hi Grandma, I'm on vacation in Belize and I suddenly need X amount of money. One of the best tips that I've heard about this is came from a senior, and she said that in her family they have a code word, and I think it was puppy or something like that. Don't use puppy, everyone's gonna use puppy. But so any communication that is legitimate from someone needing help in her family would know to use this code word that a fraudster would not use and would not have a reason to use if they're pretending to be stuck in Belize and needing funds. So you can ask a question or two to confirm that this is your nephew, your niece, your grandchild, but even more than that, check in with other family members and find out if the person is actually on vacation. They might be at home. You know, say, is there a number that I can call you back or whatever it is? Hang up and call around. Call them at home. Call their home phone. Call their parents. Find out if they're actually even overseas. Because if it is a legitimate situation, someone else needs to know about it. But 99 times out of 100, it's not.
Thank you, Rachel. Seth, did you want to chime in on that one?
Yeah, actually, this is another, I was mentioning before how AI is really changing everything. And, it's important to understand that these aren't sort of kind of coops in the basement who are calling numbers through the phone book. These are international, organized criminal rings. And this is their profession. They do this all the time, and they have access to the latest technology. And they use it, and they're really using it with the help of AI with these grandparents calls. There just was actually a story this morning on one of the national networks where, our whole lives are on social media. So the criminals are taking actual audio of a person's voice that they share on social media and using that to mimic one of these, grandchild in danger calls. So the grandparent picks up the phone and actually hears the voice of their actual grandchild. They might even mimic the phone number of the grandchild. And now I'm really scared. And so that's what they want to do. They want to get it in that spot, or we kind of call it being in the ether, where you're so scared that you're just trying to fix this problem as quickly as possible, and you'll do anything to help your loved one out. And that's where, I think it's really important when they say, go to the store and get $5,000 in prepaid gift cards, or go to the bank and withdraw $95,000 and put it in a FedEx envelope. That whenever they ask for money, that's your red flag. That's your sign that this isn't legitimate, and I need to hang up the phone. And as the Attorney General's office said, call my grandchild or call their parents and figure out if they're really in Belize, they're really in jail, or maybe they're just in class or at work.
Thank you, Seth. And also I wanted to ask, is another red flag when they receive a call or an email or a text that wants quick action. So they want a response in an hour or 2 hours. It may be an emergency or they're on their end to prevent you from thinking through the scenario.
Yeah, it's high pressure sale. This isn't anything. If you went to buy a washing machine and the person told you, like, you can only get this price in the next hour, otherwise it's going to cost you more, you turn around and walk out of the store. The thing is that these criminals will use these psychological tactics to get you in a panic and then get you, create that deadline by which you need to act. It's hard. Actually, there are so many scams out there. It's hard to stay on top of all of them. But the important thing to know is they tend to ask for money the same way, either through a bank transfer or a large cash withdrawal that they want you to mail to them, or buying prepaid gift cards. And one of the newest trends that we're seeing is they want you to send And you might think, I don't even know how I would do that. So for everybody who has a smartphone, take out your phone after this call and just bring up the map and search cryptocurrency ATM and just hit enter. And I guarantee you'll be shocked by what you see. These ATMs are in gas stations, they're in grocery stores, they're literally all over our community. And so rather than having to coach their victims to go to a bank and withdraw a large amount of money, all these criminals have to do is get you to the grocery store with your ATM card and get you to one of these green or blue, they look like ATMs. And you put your money in, you scan a code, and all of a sudden they have access to everything that's in your account. So it's really scary.
Wow, thank you, Seth. And just to piggyback off of that, we have a question from Rachel Zingelman, and she's from Raven Springs, Arkansas, and she just wants to know what are some of the common types of scams. So I know you mentioned romance scams, and you mentioned fraud with banks. You also mentioned the most common cryptocurrency scam, but are there any other common scams or frauds that they should be thinking about or looking out for?
Yeah, actually, I'm just looking right now. Every year, the Federal Trade Commission collects fraud reports from all across the country, and the most common reported fraud in Arkansas last year was actually credit card fraud, and that's a form of identity theft. Like we said before, so much of our information is out there already, often through no fault of our own. The criminals get that, and they just kind of hold on for it for a while. Maybe your bank or, your department store had a data breach and you found out about it. So they know you're going to be looking out for it, so they'll wait a little while. They're patient. And so what we're finding now is that more and more of this personal information is then used to open up credit cards and other people's names. And so that's why it's important to have things like credit alerts, where you can see how many credit cards are in your name. If a new credit card or a new, say, auto loan is open in your name, you'll get an alert on it. There are 3 credit bureaus, and each year they are by law required to do a free credit report. It's good to request those at least once a year. You can sort of space it out every 3 months because you can get one free one from each one once a year. So get in the habit of pulling those credit reports on yourself, because you can see every credit card that's taken out in your name, and if all of a sudden one shows up there that you didn't authorize, you can shut it down before it gets too far.
Seth, that's really great information, especially reviewing your credit report often to make sure that if there are any charges on there, you are well aware and you know what's actually been taken out by you or maybe a scammer. So many great questions have been asked, but I just want to do a quick recap. I am Ashley McBride, State Director for AARP Arkansas. I'm joined today by Rachel Klinder, Assistant Attorney General for the state of Arkansas, and Seth Buffelli, Senior Advisor, AARP Fraud Prevention Program. Today's program is all about fraud and answering your questions or concerns about fraud. A little earlier, Associate State Director of Advocacy and Outreach, Maria Hoskins, also introduced herself. And now, Rachel, we have a question about our legislative process. AARP Arkansas visited your office earlier this year, and we're interested in partnering on legislation that will give families of victims who have been taken advantage of a legal path forward. For the elderly, this type of fraud is tantamount to elder abuse, and often victims do not want to come forward because they're truly embarrassed. Can you share any thoughts on possible legislation that might be brought forward in the coming years?
First of all, it's nothing to be embarrassed about. I know Maria said earlier that 67% of respondents said that they had been a victim of scam or fraud. I guarantee if you had said, have you or someone you know been a victim of scam or fraud, it would have been 100%. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. Basically, if you have a phone number or a card, the possibility is there. I cannot speak to any forthcoming legislative efforts by our office, especially considering that we just this week wrapped up this year's General Assembly. So it'll be another 2 years before we have a general session. So we're just now starting to build our legislative wish list for that session. At the same time, we are constantly working with groups such as AARP, special interest groups representing all sectors of Arkansans, and finding out what their issues are with respect to the various areas that we cover, from civil to criminal, Medicaid fraud, consumer protection, utility rates. We want to hear about it. The number one thing that we encourage is for you to contact your senators and representatives, because it means a lot more to them to hear from you, because you're electing them, than it does to hear secondhand from us that, hey, you have a constituent who's interested in this particular topic. So we definitely encourage you to reach out to your own legislative delegation and let them know your wants and concerns, follow up in writing, and it doesn't hurt to do it a couple times. Do it now, do it closer to election time, do it closer to the time that they begin filing bills before the next General Assembly.
Thank you, Rachel. Our phone lines have been lighting up. Thank you so much for participating in this informative Tele-Town Hall on fraud prevention. This question comes from Sherry in Arkansas. Sherry continues to get ads on the internet on extra money on Medicare checks, and when she receives these calls, they don't provide any information, but they ask her for her Medicare number, and she knows she's not supposed to give her number out. Is this legit?
Are the questions legit? Absolutely not. And we have on our website a link that we'll share with you leading to a number of common scams and frauds and elder abuse of various kinds and how you can avoid it. One of these is specifically about this kind of approach, these attempts to get people's Medicare numbers, the promises they'll make about sending you gift cards or checks or whatever it is. Do not fall for it. They are not legitimate. Don't give out your number. Be firm.
Thank you, Rachel. So there's no one way to prevent criminals from acquiring your confidential records, and you should shred files that you no longer need, such as medical records and credit card offers. AARP will be hosting our first Shred Fest of the year in Little Rock on May 6th, 8 a.m. to noon, and a second one in Springdale on May 20th, 8 a.m. to noon. We encourage you to come out and destroy documents to help prevent confidential information from getting into the hands of criminals. We have more information and ways to register for this Shred Fest at states.aarp.org/Arkansas. Again, at states.aarp.org/Arkansas. If you have a question or comment about fraud, just dial 3. And now, Seth, I have a question for you. Gift card sales rose from $130 billion to $173 billion in 2021. And while they're popular with consumers, they are also popular with criminals. Seth, what are common ways that people are defrauded using gift cards?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we're asking it. Actually, this is a common, this shows up in so many different scams. The criminal, they want one thing, and that's to get paid. And they want to get paid sort of as far away from the traditional banking system as possible. And so if you go back sort of 10 or 15 years, the way they would ask for money was either for you to go make a bank transfer or if you go to someplace like Western Union and send a money order. Well, the laws started to catch up. Bank tellers started to get trained to sort of spot the signs of somebody who's under duress. And so that started to slow down, and we were able to help people sort of in the act of being scammed and help them save their money. So criminals moved on to look for new ways, and one of the new ways is these gift cards. Why? Because they're everywhere. We see them in our grocery stores, we see them in our shopping centers, and they're right out there in the middle. Anybody can see them, anybody can access them, tamper with them, and some of them you can load literally like hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. It's interesting, actually, the laws that exist around gift cards are actually money laundering laws, because gift cards are a preferred way for drug traffickers to launder money, because it happens outside of the banking system. You can load a lot of money onto those cards. You can move them off of the card almost instantly, and so it's really kind of the criminal preferred tool. Now that is starting to shift a little bit towards crypto, which is why we're trying to talk about it more. But that's important to know. Another thing to be leery of is that we're hearing more and more people who buy gift cards as a gift only to find out that the value has been removed. So making sure that you buy that gift card either online or as close to the cash register as possible. Those kiosks out in the middle of the store are easy to tamper with, and then buying that card as close to the point that you're going to give it to the person as possible is also good. You don't want to hang on to those things for too long, because criminals have been so good at sort of figuring out how to hack into them and take the money before the person that you intend the money to go to has a chance to use them.
Wow. Thank you, Seth. That is very valuable information. Before we wrap up this evening, let's have Maria rejoin us with the results of our second poll.
Ashley, earlier we asked Arkansans if they would like to see stiffer penalties for elder-related fraud. Here's what we learned. 95%. So, you can see we have a lot of work to do. Rachel, this information will surely be helpful as we work together with other organizations at the Attorney General's Elder Abuse Symposium. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Certainly. I'd like to share a little bit about the Elder Abuse Symposium and then add in just another law that we have on the books that the Arkansas Attorney General enforces with respect to penalties for elder fraud. We will have the 4th annual Arkansas Attorney General's Elder Abuse Symposium sometime this fall. The dates have not been established, nor has the venue, but it will be early fall, and all of that information will be made as public as we can possibly make it. We will disseminate everything through AARP, and basically any other way we can get it out there. We reach out to the news organizations, churches, all kinds of. If you visit it or hear about it frequently, chances are you'll have some information about this conference coming your way. And we have speakers from a number of different areas of service to the elder community, from everything from long-term care facilities to the Adult Protective Services Division of the Department of Health, to our own office, and a couple of banks participate. So we try to kind of run the gamut of how can we protect you with respect to prescriptions, how can we help you protect your bank accounts, how can we help you protect loved ones who are in long-term care facilities and maybe you're not even sure how to report that kind of fraud. So definitely keep your eyes posted for that.
Wow, such good information, Rachel. We are so excited that that's coming this summer, and we look forward to participating alongside you. So our phone lines have been lighting up yet again, and we want to thank you all so much for participating in this informative Tele-Town Hall on fraud prevention. This question comes from Tammy in Conway. Tammy asks, 2 years ago, she bought a tablet from Amazon. It got sent back to her mother in Oklahoma accidentally. Her mother started to get calls that she owed $800 for the tablet. How did they get her phone number? Seth or Rachel, who wants to take that one?
Yeah, I think it's always hard to know for sure. But I think the one thing for Sandy or anybody out there, and this goes for if it's an offer of a rebate or a claim of a charge that was fraudulent, whenever you get these messages, whether they're positive or negative, if you think that they're legitimate, it's important to verify them independently. So don't call back the number that's left on your text or your voicemail. Don't click on the link. If you think that there's a problem with your Amazon account, go to the Amazon website, find their customer service number. Don't Google it, because there's all kinds of horror stories of scammers doing fake ads with fake customer service numbers. But go to that website. If it's your utility company, go to your utility company website. If it's your bank, take out your bank card, flip it over, call the number on the back, go to the trusted source and confirm whether there's a problem or not. I'm guessing in this case, they probably say there's nothing wrong, you don't owe anything, so that you can feel free to just ignore those phone calls.
Awesome. Thank you, Seth. Be a fraud fighter. If you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. Visit the AARP Fraud Watch Network at www.aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. Again, www.aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. Or call the AARP Fraud Watch Helpline at 1-877-908-3360. So as you know, school is winding down and summer is fast approaching, which means the window to relocate is opening. Whether you're relocating for work, downsizing, or sending a child off to college, who you hire to help with that move matters. Seth, can you share any information on moving scams and how we can avoid them?
Yeah, that is one of the things we're hearing a lot about these days. And I think it's important to do your homework. Don't just go to the cheapest option. So get a couple of quotes. Check with people who have used them before. Get the references just to make sure they're legitimate. And I think the other thing that you have to be really careful about is prepaying. A lot of these places that are fraudulent will try to get all the money up front. So just make sure that the person you're hiring to give all of your valuable possessions to, that they've been vetted and verified. Talk to somebody who's used them before, and somebody that you trust.
Awesome. Thank you, Seth. The Fraud Watch Network is designed to give Arkansas residents access to proven tools and resources to help protect them, their families, and friends from identity theft and fraud. It's free and open to everyone of any age, AARP members and non-members alike. To sign up, you can call 1-877-908-3360 or by visiting our website, aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. Again, that's aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. On the website, you'll also find information about the latest scams and have a chance to share your stories on our scam tracking map. From coast to coast, AARP is working to spread information and knowledge about dangerous scams. But sometimes education alone isn't enough. That's why we're working to improve fraud protections to help people hang on to their money and increase penalties for criminals. Rachel, can you share if there is future legislation that you guys are thinking about at the Attorney General's office to hold criminals accountable in Arkansas?
I cannot speak to future legislation because, of course, that's left up to the General Assembly, which will ultimately vote things in or vote things out. But I can share one recent law that was passed that is aimed specifically at prosecuting those who target elders, and that is the SAFER Act, which was passed in 2021. And what this does is require every financial institution in Arkansas to report suspected elder abuse or exploitation or fraud to the Department of Health's Adult Protective Services Unit, which in turn has 48 hours to turn over that report to our office for investigation. And that means that if someone comes in who appears to not entirely be familiar with the contents of their account, but maybe wants to withdraw $15,000, never having done so before, that should be an alert to a bank employee, and all of the employees of the bank or of the financial services provider are charged with this responsibility. So they keep alert for that. We hear good things from providers directly as well as through Adult Protective Services. And that's just an example of the creative kinds of legislation that we can work to get passed.
Great information. Thanks, Rachel. Spring is here. With warmer weather comes home repairs. Unfortunately, shady contractors are out there looking for homeowners in the market for spring repairs. Seth, can you tell us about contractor fraud and home improvement scams and how they can cost homeowners thousands of dollars?
Yeah, I kind of made a joke at the beginning about, that it's flooding season and there's also tornado season too. It seems like it's always natural disaster season anywhere you go these days. But this is one of those things where, this is kind of an age-old scam. People are out there, they'll knock on your door, say, hey, we're doing some work in the neighborhood. Mind if I climb up on your roof and take a look? I could probably help get you, money from your insurance company. What usually happens is if you sign on with those folks, they'll help you make that claim, but then they'll want that insurance check up front for themselves. And once you pay up front, either they won't show up again or they'll be unreliable. It's important, this is kind of, when disasters happen, you just want it fixed as soon as you can. But it's important that you hire people that you go looking for, not people that show up on your doorstep, and that's where you can be. You can at least have a little bit more protection, knowing it's someone you went out to find. You did your own homework, you did your own research, and you pick somebody that you're comfortable with, not just the person who shows up with a business card at your front door.
Great information, Seth. Thank you. Rachel, are there additional resources that the Arkansas Attorney General's office provides on fraud?
Yes, there are. There is, like I said, there's a link to our overview of fraud resources that will provide you the URL for, so that you can click on it and peruse it at your leisure, as well as bookmarking it to save for later, because you never know when you're going to need them. To Seth's comment about door-to-door sales, we do have an enforcement mechanism in Arkansas called the Home Solicitation Sales Act. Under this law, any door-to-door salesperson has to give you a copy of that contract when you sign it, and then you have, no matter what they say, a 3-day cooling off period to cancel that contract. They'll tell you it's one and done. It's not true. Make sure you get a copy of the contract. Make sure you think hard about before purchasing anything, and then think about that cooling off period.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Seth, one last question for you. Can you tell our callers about the Fraud Watch Network newsletter?
Yeah, so, I think you mentioned it before, Ashley, but the website, aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network, it's really kind of our one-stop shop. There's everything you could want on there, but one of the great items on there is called the Watchdog Alert. You can sign up for it either by email or text. It goes out every other week, and it's either a timely or a breaking scam. It lets you know what to look out for, how to avoid it, and what to do if you or somebody you know gets caught up in it.
Thank you so much, Seth. We've learned a lot of information about fraud tonight. Be a fraud fighter. If you spot a scam, you can stop a scam. Visit the AARP Fraud Watch Network at www.aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network, or call the AARP Fraud Watch Helpline at 1-877-908-3360. This evening has been truly enlightening. I know that AARP headquarters, AARP Arkansas, and the Arkansas Attorney General's office fight diligently for those who are victims of fraud in our community. I want to thank our amazing experts who shared with us tonight. Rachel, Seth, wonderful job. And to those of you who tuned in, called in, or answered our poll questions, thank you. Please know that AARP Arkansas and our national team are always here with resources and information about our Fraud Watch Network. You can sign up for the newsletter Seth mentioned at aarp.org by using the search bar to type in Fraud Watch Network. Joining the AARP Fraud Watch Network is a terrific way to learn about the most effective ways to protect you and your loved ones from identity theft and fraud. If you haven't had a chance to sign up yet, you can call our Fraud Watch Network hotline toll-free at 1-877-908-3360 and add your address to the Fraud Watch mailing list. That's 1-877-908-3360. If it's easier for you to sign up online, visit our website at aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. And don't forget, you can dispose of confidential documents for free at our AARP Arkansas Shred events, May 6th in Little Rock and May 20th in Springdale. Sign up for faster shred service by registering at states.aarp.org/Arkansas. Have a great evening, and thanks everyone. Stay safe.